Her childhood sweetheart was back. And ever since he'd returned, my wife had been coming home later and later. It didn't matter. Our marriage was just a contract after all. It's true, through a bizarre stroke of luck, me, a recent English Lit grad with no job prospects, had somehow been chosen by Isabella Vance to be her contract husband for the tidy sum of $8,000 a month. Now, with the contract nearing its end, I knew it was my responsibility as a diligent employee not to interfere with my employer's love life. So, I quietly handed off my duties at the office, packed up my things, and disappeared. I found a picturesque, off-the-grid spot to eat, drink, and be merry, completely untethered. But when I woke up the next morning, I found my hands and feet chained to the four corners of a bed. My beautiful CEO wife was leaning over me, a smile playing on her lips. I don't recall saying, "You could leave. You got a lot of nerve running away like that." A crimson glint flickered in her eyes. A moment later, she ripped open my shirt, and the bedroom became a battlefield without a single shot fired. I was about to graduate from college, but my dead-end major meant my job search was going nowhere. I thought about grad school, even looked into some government jobs, but the competition was brutal. I got cut after the final interview every single time. Ugh, can a guy catch a break? I leaned back in my desk chair and stared at the ceiling, groaning. The last few interviews had been a joke. One offered an unpaid trial, period. Another wanted to work me like a dog. 1 day off a month, no benefits. Number 401k. Just kill me now. What kind of life is this? Frustrated, I slumped over my laptop and pulled up LinkedIn. I started sorting by recommended and just spammed my resume at anything that moved. I must have sent out 1,000 applications that afternoon, maybe 800. Staring at my cramped, aching fingers, I collapsed onto my bed, planning to rest for just a minute. I woke up to my roommate shaking me. It was past 9 at night. "Leo, you okay, man? You were out for a while." Seeing the worried look on his face, I waved a hand. "I'm fine, just exhausted from a marathon session of resume blasting." My roommate Dave looked relieved. "Don't sweat it, man. You'll find something." "I know you will. Thanks, dude, no problem." "Hey, I saw you skip dinner, so I grabbed you a burrito bowl. It's on your desk." He pointed to a foil-wrapped container. "You're a lifesaver. My hero." I hopped off the bed, unwrapped the burrito bowl, and inhaled the glorious scent of grilled steak and cilantro lime rice. "How much do I owe you?" I pulled out my phone. "Dude, don't worry about it. It's nothing. Just buy us around when you land that corner office." "You got it. First paycheck. I'm taking you guys to a steakhouse." After devouring the food, I went for a walk to clear my head. The campus track was buzzing with life. People were jogging, walking, and a couple of guys were trying to impress girls by strumming guitars and singing off-key. It cheered me up watching the world go on. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Hello," I answered. "Good evening. Am I speaking with Leo Hayes? This is Apex Dynamics." The voice on the other end was a polished, professional customer service type. My first thought was it was a scam call. I was about to hang up, but I hesitated. "Fine, I'll play along. A little post-dinner entertainment." "Can you hear me, sir?" the voice asked after a moment of silence. "Yep, loud and clear." "Go on," I said quickly. "Excellent. We were wondering if you might be available for an in-person interview at our offices tomorrow." A smirk crept onto my face. I gripped my phone tighter. "Oh, I see. You're just trying to hit your interview quota, aren't you?" "Sure, I can make it." "Apex Dynamics," I said. "I'll be there." "Wonderful. We look forward to meeting you." After hanging up, I stared at the call log and let out a cold laugh. "Yeah, right. Like I'm going to that dot back in the dorm." I told my roommates about the scam call, expecting them to laugh with me. Instead, one of them, Mark, looked up from his phone, eyes wide. "Whoa, dude, Apex Dynamics. They're like a huge deal right now." He explained that Apex Dynamics was a rising star in the tech world, one of the hottest new companies in the industry. "Huh, then why would they call me for an interview?" I asked, completely baffled. My roommates looked just as confused. "Don't forget us when you're rich and famous." They all started chanting, slapping me on the shoulder. "They're probably just using my resume to pad their numbers," I muttered. It was the only explanation that made any sense. Why on earth would a company like that want me? "You should go." "Man, what have you got to lose? It's good interview practice." "Yet for real. Worst case, it's a story. Best case, you actually get it." They took turns convincing me, and the more I thought about it, the more they made sense. What was the harm? If by some miracle I actually got the job, I'd be set. The next morning, I showered, put on the one decent button-down I owned, and checked myself in the mirror. Not too shabby. I flashed a grin, grabbed my portfolio, and headed out the door. "Just wait, you guys. Dad's coming home with good news." When I got to the address downtown, I stared up at a gleaming glass skyscraper with Apex Dynamics emblazoned across the top. A knot of doubt tightened in my stomach. A company this big, is there any real chance I could get this? Despite my bravado back at the dorm, I was terrified. After checking in with the receptionist, a friendly woman led me to the elevators. As we ascended, I closed my eyes and took deep breaths, trying to calm the frantic beating of my heart. The glass walls of the elevator gave me a dizzying view of the city dropping away below. The elevator chimed and stopped. I started to step out, but the receptionist gently stopped me. "This isn't the floor for the interviews yet. Sorry." I stepped back, my face burning with embarrassment. I just wanted this to be over. Get the interview done. Get out and forget this ever happened. Just then, the doors opened again and a woman stepped in. She was wearing a tailored but casual blazer, and she was without a doubt the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. The receptionist's posture immediately straightened. "Is this one of today's interviewees?" the woman asked, her eyes flicking over to me for a second before returning to the receptionist. "Yes, Ms. Vance," the receptionist replied respectfully. "Ms. Vance, the CEO." I couldn't believe I'd run into someone that high up right off the bat. The knot in my stomach cinched even tighter. At the same time, a flicker of curiosity sparked. I never imagined a CEO could be so young. In my mind, they were all 50-something guys with graying hair. Was everyone in the suite this young? Soon, the elevator arrived at the interview floor. The woman, the CEO, stepped out first. The receptionist guided me to a waiting area outside a large conference room. A row of men in sharp suits sat in the chairs, looking like they just stepped out of a Wall Street recruiting poster. I looked down at my own casual shirt and jeans. I was completely out of my league. "Hey man," I whispered, sliding into the seat next to one of the NBA bro types who was sitting ramrod straight. "You guys all here for the interview?" The man glanced at me, a strange expression on his face before answering in a perfect broadcast announcer voice. "Yes." Then he turned away, meticulously straightening his tie. That one word was enough to kill any further attempts at conversation. As candidates were called in one by one, my anxiety grew. Should I just run for it? But the thought of facing my roommates after bailing was too humiliating. I couldn't let them down. I forced myself to stay put, repeating a silent mantra. "Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. They're all just big dumb pigs." An hour and a half later, it was finally my turn. When I walked in, I saw 3 people sitting behind a long table. One was a woman with glasses who looked incredibly stern. Next to her was a man with the opposite vibe, warm and friendly. And at the end of the table was the woman from the elevator, the CEO. My heart did a somersault, but I managed to walk calmly to the chair and sit down. The stern woman glanced up at me, then down at my resume on the table. "Mr. Hayes, please tell us what you know about our company." I did a quick Google search before coming, so I rattled off everything I'd learned about Apex Dynamics. She didn't say much, just made a few marks on my resume with a pen. I had no idea if that was a good sign or a bad one. After that, she asked a few more random questions, none of which had anything to do with my major or any actual skills. The more we talked, the clearer it became that my English degree had zero overlap with her business. I still couldn't figure out how my resume had even made it through the initial screening. Had I even applied to this place? After about 10 minutes, the interviewer finally looked up and asked her last question. "Tell me about your career goals." Career goals. I thought for a moment. My first instinct was to parrot some canned answer I'd found online. But after a second thought, I decided to just be honest. Honestly, I just want to make enough money to live comfortably. As soon as the words left my mouth, I heard a quiet chuckle from the friendly-looking man. "What? Like you don't?" "I see," the stern woman said. "Well, thank you for your time. Please wait for our response. You'll hear from us within 1 to 3 business days." As I walked out, I glanced back one last time. The friendly interviewer was leaning over to the stern one, pointing at my resume and laughing about something. The stern woman just sighed and tried to wave him away. And the CEO, the one who hadn't said a word the whole time, was just staring down at my resume, a pensive look on her face. Once I was out of the building and standing under the glittering skyscraper, I shrugged. Well, that's that. I'm the kind of person who gets bummed out easily, but I also bounce back fast. I wandered around downtown for a bit, grabbed a bite to eat, and then hopped on a bus back to campus. Back at the dorm, I gave my roommates the play-by-play of the interview. They were bummed for me, but they tried to cheer me up, saying I'd find something eventually. Their encouragement meant a lot. So, I impulsively took them all out to dinner. My treat. My logic was, who knows when I'll land a job? By then, we might all be scattered across the country. Better to have the celebration now. After dinner, it was back to the grind. Day after day of tweaking my resume, writing cover letters, and sending out applications. The interview at Apex Dynamics faded into the background. Just one more, and a long line of rejections until one day my phone rang. I answered, and a familiar voice came through the line. "Hello, is this Leo Hayes? This is Apex Dynamics. We're pleased to inform you that you have passed our interview stage. If you're still interested, please come to our office next Monday with the necessary documents to complete your onboarding. We will be sending a list of required documents to your email shortly. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us." I was stunned. Which company was this again? It was only after I checked my email that it hit me. Apex Dynamics, the place I'd interviewed at 3 weeks ago. I had actually gotten a job. I shared the news with my roommates, and we immediately went out for another. much bigger celebration. On Monday, I found myself standing in front of the Apex Dynamics Tower again. But this time, my heart was pounding with excitement, not fear. I couldn't believe I was about to work here. After I told the receptionist who I was, I found myself in that same familiar elevator. She guided me to an office door. "He's in here," she said, gesturing for me to enter before turning to leave. I knocked. A voice from inside called out, "Come in." I nervously opened the door and found myself face to face with the CEO from the interview, Isabella Vance. She was looking down at a file on her desk and only glanced up when she heard my footsteps. "Have a seat," she said, her tone flat. "Okay," I took her instruction, perching awkwardly on the edge of a leather sofa, not sure what to do with my hands. About half an hour passed in silence. Finally, she stood up, retrieved a folder from the cabinet, and handed it to me. "Read this over. If there are no issues, you can sign it." Sure. I couldn't believe the CEO herself was handling my I took the document and opened it. A second later, I shot up from the sofa. Marriage? I was completely dumbfounded. The document in my hands wasn't an employment contract. It was a marriage agreement. It stated in crystal clear legalese that I was to marry a woman named Isabella Vance. It was a contractual arrangement purely for the purpose of appeasing her family. In return, I would receive a salary of $8,000 a month. My only duty was to play the part of her husband at specific family functions. Isabella didn't seem the least bit surprised by my reaction. She sat down on the sofa opposite me, her posture perfect, the line of her long, pale neck, elegant. "Are the terms unsatisfactory?" "They're negotiable." I pointed at the name on the contract. "This Isabella Vance is me," she said, her expression as placid as if she were discussing what to have for lunch. I looked at her stunning face and thought about her position as CEO. Why in the world would she choose me for this? But then again, who cares why? Whatever her reasons were, what did it matter to me? I looked down at the contract with its very generous terms. I grabbed the pen from the coffee table and signed my name without a second thought. Seriously, what was there to complain about? $8,000 a month. Most college grads would kill for a salary like that. This was the lottery. A goddamn windfall. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth. She seemed pleased with my quick compliance. She took one copy of the signed agreement and handed me the other. Then she gestured for me to follow her out of the office. I trailed behind her meekly, ready to do whatever she said. She was my boss, my benefactor, my new lease on life. As we walked through the main office, employees nodded respectfully at her. "Ms. Vance." I felt a little awkward following behind her like some kind of trophy husband, a kept man. But so what? I was making money. I wasn't breaking the law, and I wasn't hurting anyone. It was just a job. Down in the parking garage, she tossed a set of keys at me. "Can you drive?" I looked down at the keys in my hand. The truth was, I hadn't really touched a steering wheel since I got my license, but I couldn't tell her that. What if she fired me and found someone else? This was an $8,000 a month job. There was only one right answer. "Yes," I said with a confidence I absolutely did not feel. I fumbled with the fob, found the car, a sleek black Porsche, and managed to pull it out of the parking spot without hitting anything. Thankfully, the short drive through the garage was enough for the muscle memory to start kicking in. Isabella didn't seem to notice I was a complete novice. She simply got into the passenger seat. "Where to, Miss Vance?" I asked respectfully. She buckled her seatbelt and glanced at her phone, not looking at me. "City Hall, huh? So, we were getting the marriage license right now. Is there a problem?" A sharp glance shot my way. No. I backpedaled quickly. "It's just we have to go to City Hall for a fake marriage. Can't we just, get a fake certificate?" "No, my parents have connections. They can check if it's real." Her parents? I figured as much. It was kind of sad. Really? Here was this incredibly successful CEO, still getting hassled by her parents about getting married. If I were that accomplished, my parents would never. Okay, who was I kidding? They totally would. To the older generation, once your career is settled, marriage is the next logical step. Man, life's tough for everyone. I shot her a look of deep sympathy. She seemed to notice because her brow furrowed slightly, and she turned to look out the window. The car moved along the road at a steady, law-abiding pace. Anyone watching would think I was the most careful driver in the world, but one person was not impressed. Isabella's brow tightened. She looked over at me. "Can you speed up? At this rate, safety first, Miss Vance." I said it, but I did gradually increase my speed. A moment earlier, a guy on a rental scooter had passed us. Somehow, we made it to City Hall without incident because the company had already told me to bring my birth certificate and ID. The process was surprisingly smooth. We filled out the paperwork, paid the fee, and that was that. I stared at our photo on the marriage certificate, a strange feeling washing over me. If I told anyone about this, they'd never believe me. I let out a sigh, which was immediately cut short by a cool voice behind me. "We're going to my parents' house." "What?" I nearly shouted. "To your parents' house. Isn't that a little fast?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She glanced at me, her own tone a little strained. "I already told my parents I got married. I have to bring you to meet them." Her words sent a jolt of panic through me. We just got the certificate and now we're doing the meet the parents routine. I wasn't ready. Miss Vance, should I buy them something? A gift, I asked as we walked back to the car. After all, a CEO's parents must be formidable, intimidating figures. A small-timer like me would be seen through in an instant. She shook her head. I've already taken care of the gifts. Oh, okay. I didn't know what else to say, so I just nodded. When my parents ask you about us, just smile and nod, Isabella said suddenly. But won't that seem rude? I hesitated. It seemed like that would only make things look more fake. She shook her head. It's fine. I'll do the talking. The more you say, the more chances you have to slip up. Soon, we arrived at Isabella's family home. It was exactly what you'd expect. A sprawling villa in a wealthy suburb, impeccably landscaped. I got out, walked around, and opened the passenger door for Isabella. To any observer, I must have looked like a simple chauffeur. If only they knew I was actually the husband of this stunning, glamorous CEO. After getting the pre-purchased gifts from the trunk, I followed Isabella toward the front door. As we approached, I saw an older couple waiting there, their faces wreathed in warm, friendly smiles. Mom, Dad, what are you doing, waiting out here? Mom and Dad, so these are my new in-laws. I remembered Isabella's instructions. Just keep smiling. So, this must be our new son-in-law, the older man said. The couple wasn't at all like the cold, snobbish parents from a bad TV drama. They were incredibly welcoming, taking the gifts from my hands while gently scolding us. You shouldn't have, just coming is enough. Come in, come in. They took my arm and cheerfully led me inside, completely forgetting about their own daughter, who was still standing on the porch. Isabella didn't seem offended. She just shot me a look, reminded me to keep my mouth shut, and followed us in. Once inside, I was surrounded. The two of them were beaming, asking about my family, my background, everything. I couldn't just smile and nod at direct questions, so I glanced at Isabella. She gave a slight nod, so I answered as best I could. For some reason, they seemed thrilled with me. They kept telling me to be patient with Isabella's prickly personality, saying that she seemed cold but was actually a good kid deep down. Then they launched into a highlight reel of her most embarrassing childhood stories. Mom, Dad, Isabella finally interrupted, her face flushed, clearly mortified that they were airing all her dirty laundry in front of me. Who does that to their daughter on the first meeting with her new husband? Isabella's mom ignored her completely, grabbing my hand and patting it. You see, what a wonderful young man. So much better than that Ryan Carter. Mom? Isabella's frown deepened. She shot a look at her mother, then at me. I got the message instantly. Time to tune out. This family drama is way above my pay grade, but I had pretty much figured it out. I was a stand-in for her one that got away. Based on years of reading cheesy romance novels, I pieced it together. Isabella and her childhood sweetheart, Ryan, must have had a falling out, and he'd left the country. I, Leo Hayes, must bear some resemblance to him. That would explain how I, of all people, got this job. It all made sense. I felt like a regular Sherlock Holmes. I was about to give myself a mental pat on the back when I saw Isabella's warning glare. Hey, it's not my fault. Your mom is the one spilling all the tea. I wanted to cover my ears, but her parents each had a firm grip on one of my hands. All right, you say one thing, and the girl gets upset. Her dad chuckled, turning away from Isabella's stormy face to beam at me. We just think you're a great kid, Leo. They proceeded to give me a grand tour of the villa. At lunchtime, they both insisted on cooking for me. Luckily, I'd gone through a phase where I tried to learn to cook, so I was able to jump in and help with the prep work. This seemed to delight them even more. Isabella, however, looked less and less pleased. Whoops, I got too comfortable and forgot my place. I've been ignoring the boss. So over lunch I laid it on thick, praising Isabella's competence and kindness. It didn't seem to work. Her expression remained as cool and distant as ever. Oh, you poor thing. You must have a lot to put up with, her mother said, looking at me with pity. We know what our daughter is like. My compliments had completely backfired. After lunch and a bit more chatting, Isabella poked me in the arm, signaling that it was time to go. We politely declined her parents' pleas for us to stay longer and got back in the car. On the drive back, Isabella was silent. I didn't dare ask what was wrong, and frankly, I didn't want to know. Why borrow trouble? I just focused on driving. When we got back to the Apex Tower, she gave a few instructions to her assistant and then disappeared into her office without a word to me. For a moment, I was at a loss. So much had happened today. Mr. Hayes, the assistant, a sharp woman in a stylish dress, handed me a manila envelope. Ms. Vance asked me to give this to you. Thanks. Of course, she didn't leave. She just stood there waiting. I ignored her, sat down on a nearby sofa, and opened the envelope. Inside was a keyring, a bank card, and a single sheet of paper. I unfolded the paper. It read, "One key is for the villa. The other is for the company car I've assigned you. You can use it as you wish. It would be best if you move into the villa today. My parents might drop by unannounced, so I need your cooperation. I will deposit your monthly salary onto this bank card. The PIN is the last 6 digits of your social security number. Additional rules are listed below. Please read and adhere to them. The list below could be summarized in 3 main points. We have separate bedrooms. Neither of us is to enter the other's space without permission. A housekeeper will handle cleaning. My needs are to be prioritized in all situations. You may attend to important family matters, but you must inform me in advance. Otherwise, your time is your own. During the term of the agreement, you are not to disclose the nature of our arrangement to anyone. If the secret of our fake marriage is leaked by you, you'll be liable for a penalty of 3 times your total salary received. Most of this was already in a main contract, but I guess she was worried I hadn't read the fine print. I stuffed everything back into the envelope and looked up at her impeccably dressed assistant, letting out a deep sigh. To be honest, this was awesome. I certainly wasn't going to be like those dramatic guys in novels getting all weepy because the cold CEO was ignoring them. And I definitely wasn't going to go out of my way to do things she hadn't asked for, like waiting up for her every night to make her a bowl of hot soup, or, if she had a headache, running off to learn ancient massage techniques to ease her pain. And I sure as hell wasn't going to stress about what to get her for her birthday or her anniversary, or get all jealous if I saw her with another guy. What was the point of all that? This was a business transaction. We had to act like professionals. Cleaning, cooking. She had specialists for that. Did I really think my amateur skills could compete with people who dedicated their lives to their craft? And if she got sick, she'd go to a doctor. Was I supposed to take a weekend course in alternative medicine and suddenly cure her? Get real, and gifts, please. A woman like her had seen and owned every rare and precious thing imaginable. Did I really think she'd be moved by some handmade trinket? That's just self-indulgent nonsense. The thought of all that melodrama gave me a headache. Seeing that Isabella expected none of it from me, I was ecstatic. I get to live in a huge villa, eat great food, and collect a cool $8 grand a month for doing basically nothing. Was this a dream? I pinched my thigh hard. Ouch. Not a dream. Not a dream. Whoa. Who read my mind? I looked up and saw the assistant smiling at me. Could you please tell Miss Vance I've received this and thank her for me? My face fell hot. She must have seen my stupid, greedy grin. The assistant nodded. Of course. Then she turned and walked away. Phew. I looked at the envelope in my hands. A wave of pure joy washing over me. I immediately pulled out my phone and texted my doormates. Boys, Dad's buying tonight. Pick the most expensive place in town. Anything you want. It's on me. That evening, 4 figures stumbled down the street, arms slung over each other's shoulders, all of them drunk. In the end, my friends hadn't let me take them to a fancy restaurant. Instead, we ended up at a food truck park, ordering mountains of barbecue and pictures of beer. A wave of melancholy hit me. We'd spent 4 years together, closer than family. In a few months, we'd all be heading in different directions. It's okay, I said, clapping my hands to break the silence. Once we're all settled in our jobs, we'll get together all the time. But no one answered. We all knew the truth. For many people, once you part ways, it's for good. We'd probably be like most graduates, drifting apart as time went on. But this moment right here was real, and the feelings were real. I'm moving back home to work, said Frank suddenly. He'd found a decent-paying job near his hometown. He was raised by a single mom whose health wasn't great, and he wanted to be close by to take care of her. I'm heading down to Florida, Dave chimed in. We all knew his girlfriend was from Miami. For a guy from Maine, that was a cross-country journey for love. I'm staying for grad school, said Mark. He got into a great program at the university and was planning to continue his studies. He'd been working his ass off since junior year, interning and helping professors with research. Listening to their plans, I felt a swell of emotion. I picked up a straight stick from the ground and waved it around like a sword. Well, I'm going to be a trophy husband. The other 3 stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. Here's to you finding a sugar mama to take care of you. Just watch out for her other boyfriends. You sure you can handle it, man? If you need a backup, your boy's got you. We all howled with laughter, grabbing sticks and having a mock sword fight in the street. We were just messing around, cherishing the time we had left. Just then, a black Porsche pulled up beside us. The window rolled down, revealing a stunningly beautiful, powerful face. Get it? My friends and I all froze. They pointed dumbly at themselves. Me. The alcohol evaporated from my system instantly. This was my meal ticket. My boss. I couldn't mess this up. I quickly waved to my friends. Got to go, guys. See you around. Under their bewildered gazes, I reached for the back door out of habit, then realized it wasn't a taxi. I quickly course-corrected, opened the front passenger door with an apologetic smile, and slid in. Sorry, I said the second I was in the car. Today was because Isabella wrinkled her nose and cracked the window, leaning slightly toward it. She clearly hated the smell of alcohol. You don't need to apologize. I was just passing by and saw you. It's a ride, that's all. I shut my mouth, embarrassed. The car was silent. The silence of a lamb's. Maybe I should drive. The words slipped out before I could stop them. I thought it was wrong to make my boss drive for me, but I completely forgot I'd been drinking. Isabella shot me a sideways glance, her voice flat and unreadable. No need. Okay, then. We drove to the villa in utter silence. I'd already moved my essential belongings over that afternoon. Once inside, Isabella went straight to her room, leaving me standing alone in a massive living room. The separate rooms had their own bathrooms, so I took a quick shower, then lay on my bed, scrolling through my phone. If the boss doesn't need me, my job is to stay out of her way and not cause trouble. I'm just a stand-in, after all. I was scrolling through TikTok when a wave of drowsiness hit me, either from the alcohol or the day's excitement. I decided to use the bathroom one last time before sleeping. As I opened my door, I heard a faint sound from outside. Peeking through the crack, I saw Isabella, now in a set of pale blue silk pajamas, sitting on the sofa with her laptop, her expression serious as she worked. No wonder she's a CEO at her age. Me? I'm lazy by nature. Time for bed. After a quick trip to the bathroom, I felt much better. I crawled into bed and was asleep in minutes. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the room. I frowned. I was sure I'd closed the curtains. When I sat up, my whole body ached. Weird. Why does a little beer make me feel like I've been run over by a truck? After a quick shower, I opened my bedroom door and found breakfast laid out on the kitchen island along with a note. Eat, then report to the office. Read your contract. I immediately grabbed the contract and scanned it. Sure enough, a clause stated that during the term of the agreement, I was to serve as assistant to the CEO. It all clicked. I had skipped my first day of work yesterday. No wonder she was in such a foul mood. Looks like this $8,000 a month wasn't going to be so easy after all. I quickly choked down a few slices of slightly burnt toast and rushed to the office. I couldn't afford to have my pay docked. At the office, people greeted me warmly. Morning, Mr. Hayes. Hearing them call me Mr. Assistant almost went to my head. I knocked on Isabella's office door before entering. Ms. Vance, what would you like me to do? Isabella was sitting behind her massive desk, looking through a document. She wore a silk blouse and a pair of delicate gold-rimmed glasses that made her look incredibly attractive. Sit over there, read those files. Tell me what you think when you're done. So, it's a test. I knew this money wouldn't be easy. I let out a breath and sat down at the empty desk next to hers. I picked up the files and started reading. A long while later, Isabella put down her work and looked over at me, her expression as cool as ever. Well, your thoughts? I put down the papers, took a deep breath, and launched into my analysis of the pros and cons of the different proposals. In my opinion, the first proposal, I laid out my entire thought process. Isabella listened with a neutral expression, not interrupting. When I was finished, she simply nodded. Not bad. A jolt of pleasure shot through me. Okay, so I'm a little vain. We'll go with your recommendation, huh? Isabella just raised an eyebrow and said nothing more. She trusts me that much. She didn't answer, and just like that, the first project I ever worked on was approved and implemented. Fortunately, a few months later, the results came in and it was a huge success. After that, Isabella started bringing me to more and more meetings. She entrusted me with project reports, oversight, and management responsibilities. The people who initially thought I was just some boy toy who lucked out gradually started to respect me for my abilities, and I started to piece together why Isabella was helping me so much. First, I probably look a lot like her old flame, Ryan. She was paving the way for him. If people like to look alike, they'd be more receptive to the real thing when he came back. Second, I was her husband. Legally speaking, she needed me to be competent so that she wouldn't lose face. Third, Isabella had plenty of rivals in the company. By building me up quickly, she was creating a loyal ally to help her consolidate her power. And so, over the next 2 years, I became a veteran of countless meetings and projects. My skills grew exponentially. I knew that even when our 3-year contract was up, I'd be able to land a high-paying job anywhere. The relationship between me and Isabella slowly thawed from formal and distant to something more familiar. But her expression was always the same, a cool, detached mask. It seemed like nothing could ever faze her. Oh wait, no. There were a few times. One night, I hadn't eaten enough for dinner and woke up starving. I stumbled into the kitchen, bleary-eyed, and made myself a bowl of instant ramen. The smell was heavenly. I sat down and took my first happy slurp, only to hear a loud gurgle from the living room. I looked over and saw Isabella on the sofa, bathed only in the glow of her laptop. She'd scared the hell out of me. I hadn't even noticed she was there. You want some? I asked. If that stomach growl wasn't mine, it had to be. Isabella glanced at the ramen in my hands, then turned her head away. Okay. I get it. Too good for plebeian food. The next thing I knew, she had closed her laptop, walked over, taken my bowl of ramen, and sat down at the table where she began eating it in small, delicate bites. Well, all right, then. I went back and made myself another bowl, this time adding an egg and a slice of ham. I brought it back to the table, feeling smug. I took one bite and immediately felt a pair of eyes on me. I looked up to see Isabella staring at my bowl with a strange, almost resentful look. I silently pointed at my bowl as if to ask, "This one?" Without a word, Isabella simply took my new upgraded bowl and pushed her half-eaten one with her lingering saliva over to me. You got to be kidding me. I stared at the bowl, a deep philosophical question forming in my mind. What's the risk of H? Pie. Lori here. Oh, what the hell? I started eating. Damn, this was good. Another time. I got really into painting. After weeks of practice, I produced a masterpiece I was incredibly proud of. A cute anime girl in a school uniform. I triumphantly hung it on the living room wall, planning to take it down before Isabella got home. But then I got an urgent call from the office and had to leave. When I got back, I saw that the girl's short skirt had been painted over, transformed into a long, modest one. The only other person in the vicinity was Isabella, sitting on the sofa reading a book. Some of the neighbors' kids did it, she said without looking up. It was plausible. Sometimes our neighbors would bring their kids over when they visited. I believed her, and with a heavy heart, went to take the painting down. But Isabella stopped me. Just leave it there. I gave her a confused look. She coughed. It's not bad. Then she turned and went back to her room. A huge grin spread across my face. She's got good taste. Then there was the time the company organized a flower arranging class. I went for fun and ended up winning first prize. I was so proud that I placed my arrangement in the most prominent spot in the house. It really brightened up the minimalist space. The next day, I came downstairs to find that half of my flowers were gone, replaced by some other flowers I'd never seen before, and the arrangement itself had been changed. It looked better. I made some improvements, Isabella said, walking over. She glanced at me and gave a slight dismissive smile. The rage. This was workplace harassment, but in the end, the painting and the flower arrangement both stayed right where they were, the first things you saw when you walked in the door. It was a little embarrassing. And so, our days passed one by one. On holidays, I'd go with Isabella to her parents' house, and she would come with me to visit mine. At first, I didn't think she needed to meet my parents. The whole point was to fool hers, right? But Isabella said, my parents will want to meet yours eventually. It's inevitable. She was right. Before I knew it, our parents were best friends. The two families got along famously. Mr. and Mrs. Vance were completely down to earth, never once acting snobbish about my family's modest background. My dad and her dad started going fishing together, usually sneaking off behind my mom and Mrs. Vance's backs, spending a whole day not catching a thing. Then, stopping by the fish market on the way home to buy a few to save face. My mom and Mrs. Vance went shopping together, got their hair done, and sometimes even ditched the old men to go on weekend trips. Oh darling, thank you so much for having Leo. My Isabella, with her temper. No, I should be thanking your Isabella for giving my lazy son a purpose. They chat for hours. They even started buying baby clothes and cribs. How did things ever get to this point? What a wedding. I stared at her in shock. Isabella frowned, a rare look of bitterness on her face. My parents are insisting. They won't let it go. It made sense. I was their precious daughter's husband, but we'd only gotten a license. They wanted her to have a grand wedding. Do we really have to? What happens when Isabella sighed? Yes, we'll do it just to get them off our backs. Okay, a wedding, just for show. Why was I so nervous? We started contacting wedding planners and making arrangements. Isabella seemed surprisingly invested in the details. I figured it was probably her first and only wedding, so she wanted it to be perfect. It wasn't until later that I understood the real reason. What? I'm on my way. Isabella's expression was grim as she hung up the phone. What's wrong? I asked. She hesitated for a moment, her brow furrowed. There's a problem at the factory that's handling the components for that last project. We need to go there now. Okay, let's go. I grabbed my coat and we headed out. It was drizzling outside. I went to the garage to get the car. By now, my driving skills were excellent. On the way, Isabella was silent, her frown never leaving her face. She seemed to be thinking about something important. The factory was in a remote industrial park outside the city. Because of the rain, I wasn't driving too fast, but we were getting close. Wait, Isabella started to say something, but just then there was a loud pop. The car swerved violently. I slammed on the brakes, managing to wrestle the car to a stop just inches before we would have been flattened by a passing We were both pale and shaken. Isabella's eyes narrowed. She opened her door and got out. I followed. Lying across the road behind us was a row of spike strips, and standing in front of us was a group of men in ski masks holding steel pipes. This was not good. You're Victor's men, aren't you? Victor was the head of a rival faction in the company, a constant thorn in Isabella's side. I can't believe you'd use a trick like this to lure me out. Her voice was ice. Now it made sense. She must have realized something was wrong just a second too late. Whatever he's paying you, I'll give you 10 times more. You know who's in charge of the company now? I'll overlook this. In fact, I'll give you better jobs, promotions. All you have to do is testify that Victor sent you. The men didn't answer. They just charged. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. CEO, that kind of speech only works in the movies. As they rushed us, Isabella sighed and looked at me. The usual coldness was gone, replaced by a strange, fragile smile. You need to run. I've had self-defense training. I can handle this. What? Well, if she says run, I'm running. See you. I turned and bolted. Isabella watched me go, a flicker of loneliness and sorrow in her eyes. Then she took a small, wicked-looking knife from her purse and turned to face her attackers. Flack, crack, thud. A series of sickening impacts echoed in the rain. Isabella's eyes went wide. Standing in front of her, where the thugs had been, was me holding a tightly rolled black umbrella. The ground around us was littered with moaning men in ski masks. I turned to her and grinned. Turns out, I know a thing or two. Isabella stared at me, and for the first time, a genuine smile touched her lips. Boss, how much farther is it? I was giving Isabella a piggyback ride while she held the umbrella over us, walking slowly down the empty road. She claimed she'd twisted her ankle when she got out of the car, and for some reason, neither of our phones had a signal out here. The factory was out of the question. It was a trap. The car was disabled. So, I had to carry her, hoping a car would pass by, but no one came. Looking back, it feels surreal. Just me carrying Isabella through the quiet countryside with only the sound of the rain and our footsteps. I remember Isabella talked more that day than ever before. Maybe she was trying to distract me, keep my energy up. She just kept talking as we walked down that long, straight road. Just the two of us. We finally reached a place with a signal. When we got back, I don't know what strings Isabella pulled, but Victor's entire faction was dismantled almost overnight, leaving her in complete control of the company. My own status skyrocketed. Everyone treated me with newfound respect. And so, the days passed and our wedding day drew closer. And then, right on cue, came the news that Ryan Carter was back in the country. I knew it was time for me to leave. I finally understood why Isabella had been so focused on the wedding. It was all planned. On that day, Ryan Carter was supposed to show up and sweep her off her feet. I was just the background character, the chump left at the altar. And honestly, I was happy about it. The 3-year contract was almost up anyway. I had done my job, gotten the experience, and saved up a nice nest egg. To avoid the cliché drama, the triumphant return of the first love, the verbal abuse, the two guys fighting over the girl, the stand-in getting fired in disgrace, I decided to make a clean break. First, I secretly sent my parents on an all-expenses-paid trip overseas, making them promise not to tell anyone, not even Isabella or her parents. They were confused, but they agreed. Next, I quietly began handing off my responsibilities at work. The day Ryan Carter arrived, I was already on a plane out of the country, heading to a resort in Costa Rica. I was confident they couldn't find me. I told no one where I was going, used burner phones, and changed locations frequently. I spent a glorious month living it up, completely disconnected from my old life. Finally, exhausted from all the fun, I returned to my hotel, planning my next destination for the morning. And then, where am I? I woke up in a strange room. It smelled faintly of perfume, like a woman's bedroom, and my hands and feet were bound. When I looked around, my blood ran cold. The walls were covered with pictures of me from elementary school all the way through college graduation. Every stage of my life, every expression, every place, seating, sleeping, playing basketball, riding my bike. Graduation. The photographer had followed my entire life. A stalker. A wave of terror washed over me. Then I smelled a familiar scent. A slender, smooth hand touched my face, tracing a path from my chin to my nose, then over my eyes. Like it was admiring a precious work of art. I could feel hot, ragged breaths on my skin. It was a weak, strangled sound. Standing over me was Isabella. "What is this?" She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned down and pressed her lips to mine hard. There was a taste of blood, a fierce, invasive feeling, as her tongue tangled with mine. When she finally pulled away, we were both breathing heavily, our faces flushed, a thin silvery thread connecting our lips. "Boss, you ... double quotes, haha, your turn on," she whispered, her smile verging on mania. "All those nights I spent conditioning you, it paid off. We're a perfect match now." She caressed my face again. "Why did you run away? I love you so much. I would give up everything for you. Why did you run?" I was speechless. She had lost her mind. "Haha, boss, I think you had me confused with someone else. I'm Leo, not Ryan. Let me go. You need to find," before I could finish. Her mouth was on mine again, biting, devouring. "I know who you are," she panted against my lips, her voice a raw, possessive hiss. "I'm looking for you. Leo Hayes." What? My mind went blank. Then I remembered the photos covering the walls. And I remembered the laptop she was always staring at late at night. The pieces started to click into place, forming a horrifying picture. "You ... She laughed a low, throaty sound and curled up beside me. "Do you remember? We first met when you were in 3rd grade. I was in middle school. You were lost and crying, and I found you. We played all afternoon. I remember when I took you back to your parents. You said, 'Thank you, miss,' in that cute little voice. It was like I was struck by lightning. I thought I was just charmed by a cute kid. But then, as I got older, I met other kids, other handsome, brilliant men. But none of them ever gave me that feeling, that jolt. Then I saw you again. You were a freshman in high school, riding your bike with that big goofy grin on your face. My whole body felt like it was on fire. I had to run away and change my clothes." Her voice grew husky, suggestive as her hand moved lower. It was fate. You told me you were going to marry me when you grew up. I've finally raised you to the point where you're ripe for the picking. Do you have any idea how hard it was seeing you every day, having to hide my feelings? Terrified I would scare you away. Although, I suppose I already got what I wanted right from the beginning. But I just can't seem to get enough of you. I couldn't believe it. Everything rushed back. Getting into the company, her calculated coldness, the way she slowly reeled me in, even the accidents, and the way I always woke up sore and exhausted. Understanding, seeing the dawning horror on my face, Isabella finally let go of all restraint. Now it's time for your punishment, she whispered, and then the room was filled with a series of soft, rhythmic sounds. I gave in. I tried to fight, but in one battle after another, I was shown exactly who was in charge. I tried to turn the tables to be the one on top, but I was no match for the relentless, overwhelming tide. Later, I asked her, so, what was the deal with Ryan? Isabella was lying in my arms, smiling. She hugged me tighter. Are you jealous? I love it. Seeing my questioning gaze, she explained, because my Leo was too popular. If I just grabbed you from the start, some of those other nasty men might have tried to hurt you. So Ryan, who happens to be gay and needed a way to hide his relationship with his boyfriend, agreed to help me. As we got older and had our own power, he finally got brave enough to take his boyfriend and move abroad where they got married. He came back this time to officially come out to everyone. Oh, my entire worldview had been shattered. I just held Isabella and stared at the ceiling, dazed. Another round, she whispered. What? Later, we had a grand wedding. All our friends and family came to celebrate. At the reception, I saw Ryan and his boyfriend sharing a passionate embrace. They looked over at us and smiled, sending a shiver down my spine. He invited me to his place for a drink sometime. I declined. I had once dropped off a document at his apartment and walked in on them in the middle of a very intense session. I never wanted to set foot in that place again. Decades later, Isabel and I sat in chairs on our porch, our hair white, holding hands and watching a dozen grandchildren run around the yard. We'd think back on how it all started, and we couldn't help but laugh. Still thinking of running? Isabel asked, her eyes twinkling. Never again, I said, squeezing her hand. You caught me. I'm yours for life. She smiled, and I smiled back. Our hands gripped tighter. Decades hadn't diminished our passion.